Welcome to episode 746 of Salsido Paranormal. I'm your host, James Salsido, and tonight I am sharing experiences, which are true paranormal stories on the web. As always, you can find all episodes of the show, along with links to all social media and ways to support the show, over at the website, which is salsidoparanormal.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.com. And please check it out. And also from there, you can find the Triple Minds Radio Network, KUAP Digital Broadcasting, and hear all kinds of great shows on there as well, 24/7. So I think that takes care of everything, and we can get right to these true stories here. It's been a while since I've been able to do these shows, so I'm really glad to be back to this, and let's get started on this. So, let me find the first one here. And okay, so thank you all for being here and restarting my Monday and Wednesday recordings again with these shows tonight. So, and we'll see how it goes. This first one says, I had a nightly encounter with what I believe was the ghost of a cat at my old apartment. The first encounter was when I saw a cat run past me in the corner of my eye, but when I turned around, there was no cat. On another night, I felt something jump onto my bed, which felt like little steps moving around my legs and toward my face. The air would get slightly colder when the entity was near my face, which I found noticeable and almost felt like it was breathing next to me. This happened almost every night for months while I lived at that apartment. One night I woke up from a dream to see and feel the entity sitting on my chest, but it jumped away and disappeared when I woke up. The encounter stopped entirely after I moved away from the apartment. I just wanted to share my experiences, and that's where that one ends. I wonder how many ghost cats sort of I'm not sure whether they pass away there or that's where their last connection to maybe to people was at. I wonder how many just stay in an area and sort of become attached to it and maybe even find new people that they like and decide to stay with as well. Because I've had experiences, as I've talked about before, many times in this apartment that I live in now, that I've been here now for over 17 years, almost 18 years, I think. Right around there. And where I felt that I felt a cat walk past my ankles. And this was when I first moved in here, which means it was before I ever had Logan, which is my cat right now. So it wouldn't surprise me if they had those experiences just as they described. And it was connected to the property for whatever reason. Maybe it always lived there and it was home for it, even if the people that had lived there had also either passed on or moved away. I can imagine it staying there and sort of being curious about people as they come and go. So let me see here. Sweets in the chat says I had a ghost cat in one of my old apartments. Yeah, I wonder how common that is. And yeah, I think I can imagine that, especially in like an apartment setting. So that's pretty neat. And it sounds like, I mean, the person in that that made that post didn't sound like they were frightened. Didn't sound like they were in any danger. They just they had those sensations of seeing and feeling, and the seeing and feeling this and hearing this cat moving around. So I think that's always neat when that happens. When it's sort of it seems to be a positive or at least a neutral presence like that. And so I thought that was a neat one. Yeah, all good vibes in my experience. Yeah, yep. I think you know that's always good. I mean, if you can have that, then that's amazing. And I think those kinds of stories of the positive kind don't get pushed in popular mainstream media as much as the negative or terrifying experiences or experiences that are maybe um, the people are frightened just by the fact that they can't explain something, even though it may not be negative. So, which is understandable, and then the media just runs with it. So, anyway, moving on to the next one here, and this one says, "My sister and I were riding a bike back to our home from the city around 8 p.m. The distance was not far, but the road was tricky due to forests and cliffs. My sister decided to take a less common, darker road through the forest instead of the usual busy road. The road seemed much darker and longer than usual, taking around 30 minutes to complete what would have normally take only a few minutes. I checked my phone and saw that 10 minutes had passed, but we had not yet reached our neighborhood. The road had many more turns than usual, with around a dozen bends instead of just two. After 30 minutes, we finally reached our neighborhood, and suddenly another bike appeared behind us. We were shocked because we had not heard or seen anyone else, and we wondered if something unusual had just happened. The experience was creepy and still gives us the chills, and that's where that one ends. Sounds like some possible time anomaly there, maybe. Um, and then with the person there that sort of just appeared, I wonder if that's when the moment when the writer and their sister there sort of time returned to normal for them, so that's why they didn't see the people behind them or the person behind them. I don't know, but that's not uncommon for sort of weird time anomalies. I don't think anyway, from based on other previous experiences that I've read about and listened to, and so yeah, that's an amazing one there. And I do wonder, are time anomalies um are they limited to locations or can they happen anywhere at any point? I don't know, but yeah, that's I don't know what they had happened there, but it sounds like they were aware of what they were doing and where they were going, and um, so that didn't make sense to them. So seems like something happened, and yeah, Sony on the chat there says for the most part, I don't think ghosts, humans or animal, are negative. Yeah, I think that's usually the case. They're you know a lot of times it's especially with animals, they're just there to be there, and with humans it can be a little more tricky, I think, in some cases, because if a person was not such a great person in life, then they can still be that way after in whatever form they take after they've passed. But for the most part, I do think that's true. That mostly they don't mean to be negative, and they're usually not. So moving on to the next one here. Let's see. I have to scroll down a little ways. to do this. Okay. But yeah, time anomalies really always are amazing to me because there's so many accounts of that, and so I don't know how to explain that. Obviously, this one says my brother passed away suddenly in December. He was about 50 years old, and his death was a shock to everyone. He worked in the horse racing industry and had a lifelong passion for it. My father raised us at the racetrack. About 4 months after my brother's passing, a friend from the industry invited me to a local track to talk about my brother and make some bets. The friend is a skilled race handicapper. I'm guessing that means better, or I don't know, but anyway, and had more luck than I did. When it was time to leave, I swore I wouldn't make any more bets. But when the friend stepped away, I heard my brother's voice saying hello and then my name in the same tone and manner as when he was alive. The voice seemed to come from about 10 feet behind me, but when I turned around, there was no one there. Despite feeling skeptical, I decided to put $20 on a long shot on a track I hadn't bet on all day. The horse won, and I believed that my brother was still with me, guiding me to make the winning bet to show that he is still with me. And that's where that one ends. That's a neat one. And I really wonder, too, I mean, if that's what was happening. It was sort of, maybe there was more to the message than just the sound. Maybe there was some kind of sending information from the spirit to the person there to get them to make that last bet, even though they weren't going to. And so yeah, I like that one. I think that's a neat one. And it's obviously sad that the brother passed so soon, but sounds like they're still there. And so that's another one where, again, it seems fairly positive and a good memory to have for a long time after. Moving on to the next one here. This one says, my extended family, 7 people in total, and I went to a pizzeria restaurant to celebrate my mother-in-law's birthday. The restaurant is in a renovated old train station and has 2 floors. With my group seated upstairs in what appeared to be the attic area. The restaurant was relatively empty, with only one server attending to our table. There was only one staircase leading up and down between the floors. As we were eating, I felt a presence and turned around to see a blurry black shadow walk by and disappear. My partner, who was sitting beside me, also turned around and reported hearing footsteps and feeling like the waitress might have been behind us. My partner and I both felt, heard, and or saw something that was not there, and were shocked by the experience. I was unable to continue with dinner normally after that, and that's where that one ends. It's a short one, but I wonder if it's, again, because of what the building was beforehand. I think anytime you have a place where you have people just constantly coming and going um, into a relatively enclosed space. I imagine that can leave energy and imprints of people, or who knows, maybe even just the spirits of people that like to be there, or like to work there. Or it could have been some kind of weird again, a time anomaly. But I wonder if there was someone there from the time when it was a train station, wondering what was going on in that room. Maybe it had been like a storage room before, or offices, and now they're wondering why people are sitting around at a table eating dinner in this space that was something else before. But yeah, so that's an amazing one, and to have two people have experiences at the same time and having them come from the same space, basically, that seems to indicate there was something going on there. So, um, I actually spent a little bit of time in a train station, um, when I was going to when I went to that training center for people with low vision or no vision that I've talked about before, and that train station at night, um, it had a weird feeling to it. I wondered at the time, and I wonder now, if there was uh I never looked into the history of the place. I wonder how old the original building was, and if there was some kind of energy buildup there as well. Um, and of course, being right next to these railroad tracks, I think, of course, there's a lot of energy going up and down the tracks all the time, over time. So I wonder if that has anything to do with possible experiences in those kinds of locations as well. Maybe something to look into for a show at some point, on just stories from train stations. I think that could be, I might do that at some point. So something to consider, and see if I can find enough material for a show like that. I think that'd be fun. Moving on to the next one here. Try to get a couple more out before we finish the show here. Let's see. This one says, I grew up with my aunt and uncle in an old lake house cottage in Wisconsin, built in the early 1900s. The home had an old crawl space that tapered in size as you went further back, making it difficult to move around. The neighborhood had a rich history, with an old empty above ground pool that predated the 1950s and was once used as a pool house for showering and changing. The neighbor's home was a resort, and across the lake was an old speakeasy that doubled as a prostitution house, with long hallways and many rooms. It was turned into a home later on. Gangsters from Chicago would frequently visit the area to stay at the lake resort. When I was 9, my aunt and uncle decided to add an extension to the home and finish the crawl space. And I would often explore the crawl space, fascinated by an old tree stump under the house. One summer, I went to get a drink while my cousin stayed behind. And suddenly I heard a loud bang, and my cousin rushed up the porch stairs, looking pale and scared. He told me that he saw a small, white, humanoid figure that seemed to be glowing and standing upright despite the cramped space. We stopped exploring the crawl space after this, and haven't spoken about it since. I also want to mention that a family member was reportedly abducted by aliens. There we go. Lost my spot. Over 30 years ago. And I have seen strange lights in the sky that didn't look like planes. Many family members have reported seeing strange things, leading me to wonder if there's a connection to extraterrestrial activity. I am still scared by the incident in the crawl space and believe my cousin's account, as he was not one to lie or make things up. And that's where that one ends. That's really fascinating to me that you have a setting, all this history in this land that could be the beginning of a more standard or a traditional ghost story, if you will. But then you have this experience that the writer's cousin had with this figure that did not necessarily look like a ghost. And then, of course, they go on to talk about their family sort of having a history of weird experiences and themselves seeing strange lights in the sky. Now, lights could be a lot of things, but if you add up just the entire collection of experiences that apparently have followed the family for who knows how long, at least over 30 years, I don't know what to make of that. I mean, it could be aliens in a way, but of course, as I always say, alien doesn't necessarily have to mean someone from another planet out in space, though it can. It just means unfamiliar or unknown. And we really I don't think we can know where anything comes from when it's able to just vanish and reappear and go through objects or mediums that we can't easily travel through. So, but still, it seems like there's a lot there in that area and with that family. I wonder if the family does live mostly in the area, or if it really is connected to them, then they could all be all over the place, and still, if it's connected to them, then it wouldn't matter where they live. So a lot of questions there, but again, whenever you have families, and we've heard of this before, paranormal activity or anything anomalous, it can sort of, the sensitivity to all that can run in families. I really, based on everything I've read and heard, I believe that can be a thing, and it seems like it in this case, in that account. And so yeah, that's and I've even noticed that with I won't ever go into all the details, but with my own family and a few people I've had experiences over the years, besides myself, and not even with me there. So I think that's a point with families. They can, if there's one person there that is sensitive to these things, it can be something that many people are, even if they don't always talk about it. Yeah, Sweets in the chat says my family too. So I think that's a common thing, and people can have different sensitivities, different things, I believe, as well. Okay, yeah. Sonia says in the chat there, says it does. Several of my family have had experiences. So yeah, so that's there we go. That's all the time we have for this episode. Thank you all for listening, and I will talk to you all next time on Salsido Paranormal. Take care.